Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
In honor of Black History Month, we thought we'd pay tribute and showcase the great defining black characters the world has come to love.
And this year we're looking to the stars. Star Wars, that is. Folks, we're doing something special. In the spirit of trilogies in Star Wars, we're examining a black icon from each era, if you will.
So without further delay, let's explore the history of Finn as we give a big old droid lighter thumbs up to the first installment of this year's Black History Heroes. Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, indeed.
All
Star
right.
Wars. Okay, enough of that running gag.
Okay, Dragon. So we are here at the dawn of the Black History Month, and well, not the dawn of it, I should say.
Don't box us in like that, man.
I know it's 13 days in. We're actually quite late, folks. We're sorry. We should have gotten to this probably a little bit sooner, in all honesty, but we're here now. Dragon, I feel like we've given some time to pass between the Rise of Skywalker and this podcast. I feel like Rise of the Resistance has actually given Finn a little bit more goodwill in the fan base, so we'll talk about that. But in general, Dragon, we're here to talk about the Stormtrooper who gave a humanity to the mask. We're here to talk about Finn. And man, oh man, Dragon, this is going to be an interesting and fun conversation. And just throughout the board with this Star Wars talk, it's going to be interesting because, of course, with comic books, I feel like comic books are a lot more easy to break down the significance, with, like the firsts and the milestones and all that. With Star Wars, I mean, sure, there are milestones here. But I feel like it's a lot more nuanced of a conversation. Do you feel that way, Dragon, going into this?
I do feel it is different. I think we kind of have the bases a little bit more loaded when it comes to Black History Heroes the way we used to do it. Kind of we went through the MCU, I believe, if not last year, then our inaugural year. Yeah, it had to be our inaugural year because we tied in the Black Panther. So I think. But yeah. Oh yeah, we did DC last year. That's what it is. We did the MCU, then we did DC, and now we're over doing Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of covering the trinity of geekdom here. So, speaking of trinities and threes, Dragon, I feel like, it's not just because I have a big trip coming up, not just because of that, although probably plays a part, but Dragon, we are doing a trilogy, and we're going to be covering a character from each of the original trilogies. And, of course, we're going to start with the new trilogy, the sequel trilogy. And Dragon, who better to do it on than Finn himself? This guy is literally the first character that we see in the new trilogy marketing. I don't know. Where do you want to start out with him?
So yes, the debut of Finn. So of course, first appeared Force Awakens from 2015. He's betrayed by the wonderful John Boyega. Now, the origin of Finn, believe it or not, from what I understand, is Lawrence Kasdan, the Kaz man. So Lawrence Kasdan, of course, kind of the maker of one of the big writer behind Empire Strikes Back, and basically all some of the big highlights of Star Wars. Good old Kasdan. I believe some of the Indiana Jones as well. Point being Kasdan. He had the idea for a POV character. Basically, they needed a POV character, kind of picking up the baton where we last left it in Star Wars. It's been at least 10 years since we get a Star Wars movie. We get Revenge of the Sith in 2005, and 10 years later, it's been a while. We got to shake things up a little bit, and they're going 30 years since the original trilogy. It's a big deal. So they wanted a POV character, and they're kind of like, what kind of sell do we have for this POV character? Like, what's kind of interesting about this guy? And Kasdan had the brilliant idea of like, why don't I make him like a deserter stormtrooper? Let's do a stormtrooper, kind of a big icon of Star Wars, but we kind of like put a different face underneath of it for the stormtrooper, not a clone, for example. Let's not confuse people with the whole clone idea. Let's just go fresh with it, man. It's 30 years later. Let's just go wild. Of course, Finn's name, of course, a big plot point in the movie, goes from FN 2187 because again, clones are. Previously, the clones had all sorts of like ranks and numbers that basically they said, "Screw it, let's just name each other. Let's just give each other nicknames." In this case, we kind of had that reverse engineered. Okay, they're all strictly going by their numbers. FN 2187, which by the way, apparently 2187. I had no idea about this. 2187 is a deep cut Star Wars reference. Do you know what's in reference
Is
to?
it really?
Yeah.
What is it?
Uh, this is so cool. In A New Hope. In A New Hope, Princess Leia is kept in the cell 2187.
Oh wow! Oh my God!
Pretty neat. And again,
that's actually kind of incredible.
and we start things off essentially in kind of a very Death Story kind of kind of situation where basically we're kind of springing somebody from from kind of entrapment by kind of our first order empire. You know?
Nice, nice. That's a really cool tie, actually. All right, so yeah, and Dragon, I think we'd be remiss because it does kind of tie into the culture of it all, and this is where we're going to get into some tricky territory here, folks. But this is what we're here to cover. Dragon, I'm just going to come right out and say it, all right? Anyone who was online back then in 2014 or whenever it was, and Finn pops on screen with the Stormtrooper outfit, anyone who said, oh, the Stormtroopers can't be black, Dragon, that whole discussion was just effing ridiculous, and I'm just so sad it even happened, and just the discord around that, the discord around Kelly Marie Tran, I don't know, man. The Star Wars fan base just kind of showed a lot of toxicity throughout this sequel trilogy. And honestly, Dragon, as a mission statement, I kind of want to reverse that, especially with Finn, because the other two characters we're talking about, they're very well loved. But Finn, I feel like out of all the new sequel trilogy characters, especially the trio, I feel like Finn got by far kind of the short end of the stick, both in terms of the writing and in terms of the fan perspective. So, Dragon, this is going to be kind of a little bit of an exercise in kind of giving Finn his due, because I feel like the concept of Finn is very, very cool, and I love what we did with him in Force Awakens, and honestly, there are things to glean from him in the other two movies, and certainly in Rise of the Resistance. So this is going to be a little bit of an exercise of like, all right, let's give Finn some redemption.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just want to kind of get the ball rolling, something I really loved about
Sure.
Finn, just kind of our impressions of Finn, from that kind of that
Yeah.
moment onwards. I felt Finn honestly was the thing I was most excited for going into the movie. I was America glowing about it every time we kept talking about all the various teaser trailers and everything in trailers for Force Awakens. I just felt it was such an ingenious pitch of a stormtrooper as our way in, kind of like turned resistance. And again, there was a beautiful misdirect in the marketing. And we thought he was potentially going to be like a stormtrooper who became a Jedi, perhaps as kind of our potential Jedi. Of course, he was manning the lightsaber, he's holding it the whole time. It's a wonderful misdirect. And what's really great about this character in that movie, just kind of in general, is that Finn was a fear-based character who essentially, through the course of the whole trilogy, but especially the first movie, who finds courage in war. It's basically a fearful character who finds courage in war. And that was a really great place. And
Dragon,
really
that's kind of the problem with him, though, is that I feel like they kind of just keep repeating his arc.
Well, I think it's more like they peter out on
there.
his arc. Is that you're right, but that's what I'm saying. But seriously, isn't that like a great pitch for a character in something called Star Wars that we really don't do a lot?
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful pitch for a character. I just wish we would have gone further with it. But like I said, there are positive things to glean from the other two movies. So
I mean, almost like an anti-Luke Skywalker in a sense. So again, oddly enough, is put into a stormtrooper costume, and that he's a guy he's not raring to go into the fight. He was born into it, but he kind of realizes, oh God, I don't want to be here. I'm not supposed to be here today. What am I going to do?
Imagine if Dante Hicks was a stormtrooper.
But wonderfully, kind of through the course of things, he kind of he falls into Luke's over the course of a movie or so. Kind of falls into like I want to be the gun ho Luke Skywalker type man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk some legacy factor.
All right. Well, like I said, of course, he is the first African American lead in a Star Wars movie, and that's very, very pivotal.
Especially after 10 years.
Yeah. And I do think that that pretty much translates throughout the whole trilogy, right? Like, I would say he gets, co-lead billing with Daisy Ridley in all three of them, right? Wouldn't you say?
I would say, at least in Last Jedi, and you know what? I mean, Yeah, he does. Yeah, he gets. Well, I mean, again, Kylo Ren kind of is the co-lead in Rise of Skywalker. So that one
That's
gets a little
fair. That's
tricky.
actually Kylo Ren has lead, actually.
That's what I'm saying. That one's a little trickier, but essentially from
Yeah,
the get go,
yeah.
for two movies, he is the co-lead. Absolutely, yes.
So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Like I said, Finn was kind of responsible for sort of weeding out some of the toxicity from the fan base in terms of just like, people who reacted in terms of like, oh, a black stormtrooper. Dragon, I feel like those people are just like, very, very appropriately mocked online these days and for good reason. And I don't know. I feel like there is something kind of empowering about like hell yes, a black stormtrooper, and hell yes, a black stormtrooper that turns the tide against the war. I think that's a really cool idea, and honestly, it just Dragon. To tell you the truth, the people that just to kind of pull it around to 2020 here, Dragon. The people that complained about like, oh, a black stormtrooper, Dragon, it's like it's the same type of people who are like Parasite shouldn't have won Best Picture. It's not even an English language film. It's like just go away. Just go away to your own sad, pathetic corner of the internet, and just like I just want to say, that Erica Albright quote that that in the Social Network that she gives to Mark Zuckerberg towards the middle of the movie. I just want to tell that to every one of those nerds. Anyways, I'm sorry, Dragon. That was kind of a loaded thing, but my point is that I feel like Finn is a defiance of that sort of attitude. You know what I mean?
He is, and if I can springboard off of that a little bit, so yeah, obviously
Sure,
we're gonna have
sure.
the big. It's a very big deal. We have kind of our black main character as well as one of our lead characters. Of course, Ray obviously has a big role as well. But again, the first guy, the guy our whole thing was marketed on, Finn. We're going in with Finn on the brain. But the other thing
What do you
is,
think of the whole literally him being the first image that popped up in the trailer, just sweaty Finn?
again, I think it's such a genius image because again, it's like it can have the stormtrooper, but again, like a different face under it, but not just the fact that it's a different
Right,
face, just the fact of
right.
okay, like we're throwing a guy in there, he already has like an interesting thing about him, like he's a stormtrooper, man. We've never, we've developed the clone troopers all throughout all of that, but again, we're trying to kind of we're really trying people for many years, and of course now we're in a weird space. Now we're really reflecting on the prequels in a positive light, and then of course Clone Wars has come back in a big way. I feel the show where the clone troopers are at their best. And so the point is, it's a big deal. Like stormtroopers have always been like faceless entities. Like after just kind of in the original trilogy, which people have always kind of glommed onto in really great ways. Like okay, it's the 501st in the sense of stormtroopers, and it was a big deal. Okay, he's our we're from the perspective of a stormtrooper, which is already kind of mind blowing.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing. I love that with that is that it's not only just it's not just a different face in the kind of the historical sense, but it's also a different face in that okay, so we're kind of reestablishing new rules for Star Wars because ever since basically we have an everyman story here. It's kind of Star Wars was always kind of assumed to be like okay, it's anyone can be a stormtrooper, anyone can be under the mask. It's just like a bunch of guys kind of clocking in and clocking out for the Empire, and then of course we go back and we reveal okay, they're all programmed, they're all programmed kind of clones made in a factory. But again, there's an interesting story to them, I'm sure. Of course, now there's whole kind of turns into drones, kind of where we leave that off. But what I'm getting at here is that it's always assumed like at some point they're going to run out of clones and they're going to put everymen in the suits. And we kind of owned that idea, and we really just kind of said, you know what? Yeah, especially 30 years later, we're out of clones. So it is we have to come up with a new solution, which would be we're going back to the everyman idea, and that was kind of the other big thing to take away from Finn. Like, okay, if he is just like a stormtrooper, before some people thought maybe just a guy disguised as a stormtrooper. But no, folks, he's a full blown stormtrooper, and he actually has a really tragic backstory with that stormtrooper thing. I mean, essentially, and we'll get into this a little bit with the Force Awakens as well once we break down the arc. Is that he's you gotta remember he's technically sold into slavery, which is kind of a big deal when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't
As a
really
kid, he
dwell
was
on it as
sold.
much
He
as
was
they
sold
dwell
into
on
the.
Ray's parents, but
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's sold essentially into in slavery via enlistment in the First Order, which again I'm sure is that's it's it's something interesting. Again, I've always said the First Order is just even more heartless than the Empire, in that they're just like basically they're trying to imitate the Empire, but without getting the point. The Empire was misguided, and they thought they could bring order to the galaxy. So the first order
Right.
like essentially took that in their namesake, but it just like we're tyrants, man, because we're essentially like we're space
I
Nazis,
just
right?
want Kylo Ren to
That's
lose.
what I'm saying. Essentially, it's space Nazis without the point. That's kind of what the first order is at the end of the day. We're all the imagery and the hatred, but we don't really quite get what the founding principle was.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
we're not misguided. We're going off. We assume the previous generation was absolutely right. And again, in doing so, they've committed some horrible atrocities, which again is ripping people from their families and just basically, essentially, they erased Finn's humanity. So it's. But again, so we have like an interesting story to go with the everyman. I guess is what I'm saying ultimately with Finn there. So another thing, speaking of the trooper thing, he's the first trooper to put the gun down. That's a mythic moment, man. That's one of the most powerful. That is a huge moment. We have essentially a soldier or kind of a brainwashed soldier in this case refusing to kill.
Yeah.
And last one I got, unless you got anything else.
No, not really.
Second to Han Solo, a non-Jedi to wield a lightsaber, and more so, the first one to actually use it in a fight.
Yeah, that was big. That was big for sure. Again, it was kind of like kind of a weird thing with the marketing. I still have to go back and watch that Force Awakens fight, but exciting nonetheless.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so should we break down the arc?
Yes. So basically, folks, we're going to kind of go through the movies and kind of go through how Finn evolves through kind of the trilogy. So, Force Awakens again, First Order, they kind of trying to emulate the Empire. Ends up in like we're programming and reconditioning children, kind of training them as soldiers, just kind of blindly following orders, which again could lead to kind of atrocities. And the important thing about Finn is that his humanity endured. In his first combat mission, where he's in the field and he has like this big wake up call, this kind of call to destiny, and which kind of leads him to desert the cause.
A lot of Finn's biggest moments happen very early on, specifically that like moment of change and then him bonding with Poe. I mean, that really is just such a core foundation for him. And I really do feel like Disney did do a great job of building him up within the first act of Force Awakens. And, along with Daisy Ridley as Rey, we really do get this juxtaposition of two tragic characters who are abandoned and don't know much about humanity and have to kind of discover themselves. It's a great mirror image of each other, Dragon. It really is.
It is, and again, I kind of love the reverse engineering of almost.
How dare you talk positively about the sequel trilogy? Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I love how we kind of reverse engineered kind of like the kind of the arc of the stormtrooper. We start with a guy realizing, oh God, I'm on the wrong side. Like a guy just having these doubts, and he kind of goes back to kind of being again. He goes from one cause to just kind of being in the middle of things to ultimately like being on the right cause. It's just kind of a great start. It was always just such a perfect starting place of like starting from kind of the enemy's place and giving humanity to a stormtrooper. I'm sorry if I'm misrepeating myself. There's nothing beating that premise. That's an ingenious premise.
Yeah, for sure. And then of course once we get going on the adventure, I feel like he is just he's mostly kind of just along for the ride, but he is sort of that audience surrogate character where he's like, oh my God, I'm riding along with Han Solo and I'm giving thumbs up to droids. You know what I mean? He's kind of like the audience standing character in a lot of ways once the adventure gets going in Force Awakens.
Yeah, he's this reluctant hero because remember he's not exactly. He's just we have a big moment with him and Poe where it's just like I need a pilot, man. Yes, I need a pilot because he's just trying to say because it's the right thing to do, but he's not quite there yet. It's like you need a pilot, don't you? I need a pilot bad. So we kind of have this. Basically, he has a reluctant hero arc. Basically, this reluctant hero who runs into good people who shape him through the course of the movie. He runs into Poe, a hotshot good guy pilot. He runs into Rey, best friend for life. Runs into Han, who, again, like legend from the older trilogy. Again, he's very. You'll notice throughout the movies, he's very fearful and very defeatist with the First Order. Because again, the First Order ruined his life. It stole his childhood. It taught him to kill people. It also stuck him on sanitation, which was not cool, by the way. It sounds like he was very dissatisfied with sanitation. Yes, I know it's a big payoff to clerks, but still, it's like sanitation, Anyway, so
Do you
you know,
want
he
to talk
kind of
about
over the course of
Phasma?
it, kind of through camaraderie. Yes. So Phasma,
I'm sorry,
basically,
it sounded like
I
you were in
love
the
the.
middle of a point, though. My bad.
I was going to build the Phasma, but you know,
Okay. Well, by all means,
essentially.
just do whatever you want. It's fine.
Sure. Okay. Well, the point is, you know, through camaraderie and friendship, you know, he kind of builds these connections and something to fight for. So he starts from the fearful deserter to a guy who's like slowly but surely through these connections, he's developing something to fight for, which will lead him to really investing in the cause. And through the course of this, he stands up to the symbols that have tried to kind of define his life again, as you know, whether he's working in sanitation or kind of as cannon fodder as a stormtrooper. And I think the two symbols that really kind of hit right now would be the traitor guy, the traitor stormtrooper.
That guy is so like. I wish that guy was more of a presence throughout the trilogy. I wish both of Finn's rivals were more of a presence.
Absolutely, and Captain Phasma being the more operative one.
Okay, here's the thing about Captain Phasma. I strongly feel like Captain Phasma was literally just invented to sell toys, Dragon. She is such a toygenic character.
I think Captain Phasma just seems like a really cool idea, but we just did nothing with her.
Yeah, unfortunately, but when you think about the dynamic again with Finn, it's like we kind of this is the challenge here, folks. It's now Dragon. I'm sure there's expanded universe stuff
There's.
like that really digs deep into the relationship between Phasma and Finn. But we're two laymen with the Star Wars universe. I don't know about you, but I don't follow any of that stuff.
I mean, all I can
But
say is we saw how she got out of the trash compactor, and that's as far as it really got into the Captain Phasma stuff. I mean, there's something that shows you
that's
how she
really
got
it.
out.
Like, there's no backstory or anything with
I mean,
Finn.
they fill in the blanks how she got from point A to point B within the two movies. I mean, in terms of I assumed I don't know if there's any more backstory within her and Finn. I imagine he probably popped up in their any
Because
flashback.
what I like about her in terms of the idea is that she is just kind of like this commanding SS officer, and Finn is kind of like her begrudging deputy that she just kind of bosses around and just sort of has under her thumb. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but Tegan, my read on that whole relationship is that simply she's the one. Again, she was about to send him to reconditioning, so I wouldn't be surprised if Phasma she worked her way up to like she was the one of the people who erased his innocence, erased the child, who like took him. For all we know, she could have
Exactly.
like picked him from
Exactly.
the village. Of like, this guy seems promising. Let's ruin his life. Let's throw him in here. Let's erase his humanity and basically make him a number. He has no name anymore. Because it's funny. I was going to mention this in the debut, but it wasn't really pertinent. But when they were kicking around names for Finn, and there was like this vague promise. I don't know how actual this is, or there's a vague promise that maybe we would learn Finn's real name through the course of things. Which obviously, by the time we get to Rise of Skywalker, didn't do anything with that. Didn't seem like a big enough deal. This doesn't really matter. But it's so like originally they were going to give him the name Sam. Then they eventually went with Finn because it was catchier.
Uh,
Anyways, little tidbit, little Finn bit, if you will. But no, seriously, I love the idea. Captain Phasma, she's the one who's like just probably casually. God knows how many other people just like said, it needs reconditioning. Send them away, and then like scrub them away, just scrub it away until he's back. And of course, like she runs such a tight ship. Like, who told you you could take your helmet off? Like that's someone who's just like. Famously, we never saw Captain Phasma with their helmet off. We just saw like a little crack in the helmet, little RoboCop style crack in the helmet. But yeah, it's I love how imposing that relationship is. And I love how just kind of also menial it is, where it's like Finn, I was like, yeah, now who's in charge? Phasma, now who's in charge? Finn just relishes so much, it's like getting one over on his old boss.
All right. Anything else about Rise of Skywalker? Or I'm sorry, Last Jedi. God
Force,
damn it!
wrong
I'm
one.
sorry. Force Awakens.
I knew
Force
this would
Awakens.
happen. I knew this would happen. All right, it's so by the end of Force Awakens, Finn he gains a confidence and a faith, but mislabels it. Of course, one of the best lines in all Force Awakens and all the new trilogy. Best line to me. That's not how the Force works.
It's a funny line. I mean, I don't want to say. I think, honestly, Dragon, one of the best lines in the sequel trilogy is "No one's ever really gone." It's kind of a shame that Red Letter Media kind of meme that,
That's what I'm
but
saying. That's not bad though. You're right. That's a good line. I'm saying it's a
well,
really
it's
great.
not. I genuinely like that line.
It is. It's a good line.
But yeah, that line. I don't know. To tell you the truth, the moment I didn't like with Han and Finn.
That was a big deal, and the whole women can always tell when you're lying.
No, no, no. That was fine. That was in character for Han. It was the whole like, did you just call me Solo?
I don't know. So
I don't
it's
know.
kind
It's like it's fine. It's passable. It doesn't like ruin the movie for me or anything. But I always kind of roll my eyes at that bit a little bit.
well, I like that
Anyways,
it's the old trilogy calling the new trilogy. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, a little respect here, kid. Just calling me Solo before I
right,
say it's
right.
okay. No, but seriously though,
Solo.
seriously, I do love this whole, like it's not how the Force works as like that. That's kind of Finn's runner through the whole trilogy, and that mainly from the first one, to the last one here, where again he has no grasp on how the Force actually works. And I think the main point to take away from this is that again he's developing, like even at the end of Force Awakens, because obviously he's a little interrupted with being gravely injured at the end of Force Awakens. But the way his arc was leaning to was he was going to be fully be within the Resistance. Like he wears look at his
Right.
costume. There's an arc within the costume. It's really nice. Starts off in a stormtrooper outfit, ends up again he kind of takes the resistance jacket, and again he kind of earns a new one by the time we go into the next movie. So again, it's kind of like he's going from one thing to another in terms of the fashion, which kind of reflects the arc of his character. That he's gun ho and he's inching towards the resistance, but again he's like saying we're going to use the force. Again, he didn't have a plan at all going here. It's like he's still putting his interest before the cause. It's like I got to save Rey, which means I'm going to use the big buzzword. We're going to use the force, man. We use the force to get us out of this thing. We're going to turn down the deflectors. We're going to have this big plan. I have no idea how we're going to accomplish it because I just work sanitation at this place. This giant kind of Death Star with a ring around a planet, Starkiller base. But yeah, I guess the main takeaway is that we establish Finn as a learning character, which he will be, especially through the first two movies. He's a learning character, and he's basically the dream outcome for a war. We have a character who goes from the wrong side, who kind of sees the error in the ways, who kind of over time becomes a good guy. It's kind of the dream outcome of any war. You turn the enemy to your side, right?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so Last Jedi.
All right, my personal favorite of the sequel trilogy.
Certainly.
Shots fired. Okay, so
wait,
Finn,
were
Dragon.
they fired first?
Yes, they were. So, Dragon, this is going to be kind of like, all right, let's defend the Finn arc in Last Jedi. We can't really defend Canto Bight, but we can at least defend everything thematically. Would you agree?
I mean, I think we can defend Finn pretty easily. Again, I want to make it clear. I don't mind the Canto Bight stuff is fine. It just doesn't belong in that movie. I keep saying that, but it's just the fact.
Here's the deal with Finn and the Canto Blight stuff in general and whatever. I feel like the arc with Finn in The Last Jedi is kind of like, essentially it's an arc of failure. That's what the entire movie of The Last Jedi is. That's kind of why I like The Last Jedi so much. It's a whole movie about failure and learning from your mistakes and people letting you down, but then also coming back around again. It's the whole movie is rich in that theme, even in storylines that you don't like the Laura Dern story of it all.
I tell you, when I was rewatching this, I just can't stand the Holdo stuff, man. I just can't stand
I'm
it.
sorry. But I do feel like the Holdo stuff, especially with Poe losing rank and everything, does play into the failure theme, Dragon, and that is with Finn as well. And you know what else is a big failure part of Finn, and we kind of have to underline this, is that he does kind of revert back, and I feel like it is realistic with him because he does. At this point with the arc with Finn in The Last Jedi, I feel like he's obviously not a stormtrooper anymore. He's obviously reverted into hero status by the time we reach The Last Jedi. But he's not necessarily a part of the cause. You know what I mean? He's not fighting for the cause. He's fighting for himself still. And I feel like the arc of The Last Jedi through the failure is to learn to fight with the cause.
Yeah.
Am I making sense here?
No, again, I'm very simpatico with you there. Again, Finn, as I
Okay.
mentioned with Force Awakens, again, he's not quite there yet because again, it'll interrupt us with the kind of the lightsaber to the spine of it all. But yeah, so like last Jedi, after he heals up from again, he was investing in the cause. He was starting to get there, and of course, in doing so, injured himself. Basically, it's kind of a little Han-esque, the start of his arc. Remember, it's a little bit like Han in Empire
Yeah,
Strikes Back,
yeah.
where Han is like he's just kind of stuck there, isn't he? He's not a general yet, but he's just kind of sticking around. And he just hasn't found the time to kind of leave yet. Finn is somewhat in the same space in that he's unfinished business, and kind of looking out for Rey and just kind of checking in with her. So Rose Tico, this is the interesting part of Last Jedi in regards to like the Finn's arc. So I would say Rose Tico, she opens Finn's fresh eyes. That's the other thing about Finn's character. Finn has a very kind of innocence to him, a wonderful kind of like almost like a because again, after he's out of the first story, he has like this kind of new lease on life. That's kind of a big thing with his character.
Sure,
new
sure.
lease on life. He's having all these experiences for the first time. He's really developing a personality beyond kind of what he's just kind of like was drilled into him. So basically, Rose Tico opens him up to the inner workings of war and kind of the bigger ideas of war, that was a really interesting thing. We kind of again. Maybe not in the movie where the main focus is going to be on Luke, Kylo Ren, and Rey, perhaps, but still interesting stuff. Where we look into the inner workings of war, like war profiteering, and we flesh out why
Right.
Finn should be involved in the Resistance's cause through this story, and that he's initially starstruck by, oh God, space casinos, this is fun, right? And of course, Rostika says, no, you dope, look at what's going on here. Do you know how they made their wealth? They're selling weapons. They're stripping mining colonies, like where me and my sister are from. My sister died in this cause, man.
But then I think DJ is kind of, he's a flawed character to be sure, but I think he represents in Finn's arc, kind of like the loss of blind optimism in people. But by the same token, DJ represents what he doesn't want to turn into and what he knows that his friends aren't.
He's absolutely DJ. That's exactly what I was going to say. He's absolutely a cautionary tale on not if you don't take a side and you just like basically it's like what the negative version of not taking a side, where it's like if you just like play both sides like DJ, that's what Finn is at risk of becoming.
Sure.
So ultimately, Finn
it all tracks, man. It all tracks. I mean, unfortunately, it is. It's not the greatest, and it really does get overshadowed by all the Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren stuff in that movie. But still, I do think it's a solid enough subplot. I don't think it's the most terrible subplot of any movie ever or anything.
Again, not bad. Just again, like when you're on the edge of your seat on one thing, then we cut to let's see what Finn and Rose are doing on Canto Bight. It's a good story, though. I won't argue with you. There is a good story. Anyway,
right.
So ultimately what he does too is, he's using his First Order experience in an undercover capacity. So this is what I'm saying, though. He didn't have a plan at the end of Force Awakens. Now he actually has a plan that actually gets him far until DJ turns on him. But again, it was a well-thought-out plan this time. And using his First Order knowledge, he gets visually bumped up. He's in an officer's uniform. He coming back, give himself a little promotion on the inside.
Now, Dragon, if we're going to use Rise of the Resistance as like an in-canon story, Rise of the Resistance is the story of Finn using those skills in an effective way.
Absolutely.
So there you go. It kind of fills in that gap a little bit.
One last thing. This is important with Finn.
Sure.
The suicide run. So Finn, he fully put himself...
Yeah, we need to talk about that. What do you think? Honestly, Dragon, considering how little Finn had to do and the fact that they didn't even bother to tie up some of the plot lines with him in Rise of Skywalker, I am kind of leaning towards this might have been a Han Solo situation where this could have been the way to go out for him. I
gotta be honest. I mean,
I feel like his character arc was pretty closed at this point.
I mean, I hear you on that, I do, and again, I really do like this character, but unfortunately, folks, that's the reality. Where again, Finn, he kind of absolutely similar to a Han Solo thing. Where again, I like that he stuck around to get kind of what he got in Force Awakens, but very famously, Harrison Ford said, "Yeah, let's kill him off after Empire. Like, I don't think he needs to come back. Let's reveal, no happy endings. He's got nobody." Which is interesting, but By the same token, again, Finn is kind of in that similar boat. Where, yeah, his story is kind of, well, we said everything we need to with Finn. He invests himself in the cause, goes on the suicide run, but he's saved by Rose. And honestly, for both of them, one of these characters should have died. I guess is what I'm saying here. No, I don't want to. I'm not trying to bag on Rose T because I did. The character's fine. But the problem is, we didn't do anything with her in the next movie either. And we was literally we kind of almost like in a fourth wall way say, "Hey, Rose, you want in on this adventure?" I better not.
Too bad, Rose. Stay here.
Yeah,
you're like the May Griffin of this franchise now, apparently.
Well, yeah, which is not true, but that's how that's.
Oh, I know that's a little hyperbolic.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway, but yeah, the point being, it was a big
like
moment.
The original Guy equivalent of the Meg Griffin abuse.
The point being, Finn fully he became a soldier for a better cause and fully putting his life on the line. Is no longer a fearful character. That's the big headline here for Last Jedi and Finn's arc throughout all of that, man. Finn for the win in that one. Okay, all right. That brings us to
Finn for the win.
Yes, and hit that notifications bell while you're at it, kids. Okay, so. Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. Oh boy, yeah. So this is really more just kind of moments for Finn, but just kind of like on a grand scale, Dragon. I think the pulse we need to hit on here is the idea of Finn becoming an icon and inspiring other stormtroopers to turn code.
Tiki, I love where your head's at, and I think we're all thinking that. Unfortunately,
I'm trying, Dragon. I want to give Finn some credit here. All right,
I do
like
too.
Boy.
Folks, essentially put, I think so. There's a number of people like Tiki
and honestly, I think John Boyega is super charming in the scenes he does get in Rise of Skywalker. It's not much.
No, okay. Look, what we're saying is, so we meet this Janna character, and Janna, this character who essentially reveals that much like Finn, they dropped their guns too. They couldn't do it, and they again other stormtroopers who rebelled from the First Order. Again, the thing would have made this scene really sing, would have been perfect, if they said, "We heard what you did," and we dropped their guns. That didn't happen, though, unfortunately. Sad as it is to say. Yeah.
You know what? I'm just under the assumption that they dropped that little detail into the book or something like that into the novelization.
All right, fine. The point being, whether you look at it as a parallel or directly the better version, Finn inspired.
Okay, if you look at it this way, Dragon, though, by the time we get to Last Jedi, Rose already knows who Finn is. Rose is already aware of, like, oh, you're Finn. You're the stormtrooper who deserted the First Order.
Okay, I like.
You know what I mean?
I'll go with that. You know what? Why not?
All right.
There was information cut from. Oh, there's all sorts of useful information cut from that movie. And I add one more thing to the pile. You know what?
Exactly.
Finn did
it.
He didn't make the final cut, but Finn did it. Okay, Finn inspired him. Anyway, so some other stuff. So point being. Rise of Skywalker. Finn, he's in a good place, man. He's in a good place. He's going on adventures with his buddy Poe. He's been reunited with his buddy Poe. No more like kind of being separated from. They're back together for a good cause. He gets to. This is really nice too when you think about it. So Finn, he gets to see the First Order really on its heels, especially through Hux. Which, by the way, Finn gets to shoot Hux a couple times, which is awesome. Again, think about this. I
am the spy.
That's the fun thing. So Finn, I love how Finn has had these one interaction we're going to get to a little momentarily, but I love that Finn's had these interactions with these major players within the First Order, and he gets to have kind of a last laugh over them and is showing like, yeah, I turned away from your side because your side's freaking psychotic. Okay, your side not really working here. And again, Hux being like the most vocal, he worships Grand Moff Tarkin. It's like I want to be the. It's just like, the First Order, which again don't get me wrong, was neat. But again, that's the point. Like he's a misguided, the whole thing misguided. Imitating the bad boys without really fully getting like the lessons learned from history. Anyway, point being, Hux is a mole, which there's an irony in Hux being a mole given what Finn went through. And now Hux essentially is the head honcho of the First Order is kind of following his example. Even that's really trippy when he's like, oh god, you're turning on the First. You're the most. vocal cheerleader of the First Order, but you don't like Kylo Ren, so you're gonna turn him.
I just want Kylo Ren to lose.
Exactly. So it's just kind of a fun moment for Finn getting to kick the crap out of Hux and like saying, "Yeah, how's it feel? Like not only am I physically getting the better of you, morally I got you there too. You're on our side too, whether you like it or not." So again, it kind of goes from soldier to general too. Big moment. Finn and Poe, they're general buddies.
Yeah, any sort of stuff with Poe and Finn in that movie, I kind of like.
Yep. So ultimately, again, I want to make it clear, very mishandled in the delivery, but the point still remains. Poe, he found his inner faith, in his actions as well, where he found a true connection to the Force. He found he also has a connection to the Force. So basically, in essence, I always loved this from Rise of Skywalker. Again, I really wish it was spelled out a little bit more, but the idea, is the whole that is how the Force works. He gets it now. He understands. He's in tune with the Force, man. Isn't that nice? And that's the thing. I like that.
You know what would have been funny, Dragon, is if we had just a full-on callback to that line. Oh my God, that is how the Force works.
Yeah, but seriously, you look at it though, it's just this really nice thing of again this guy again, Finn and Rey, as you said earlier, Finn and Rey are two kind of touchstone characters. Again, we thought Luke Skywalker was a myth. They're asking on so is all this it's all real. It's all real. So again, them operating off just kind of the legends.
Dragon, in a weird way, the sequel trilogy is all about these young kids finding religion.
Yes, in another way the meta way you want to look at it, it's basically it's young it's kind of kids discovering the classic Star Wars movies. That's kind of another way you want to look at it.
Yeah, like I said, religion.
Yeah, you got But seriously, it's kind of nice though. Again, we're hearing the rumors and the murmurs, and we get it now. They get it now. It's like this is it's like I understand this feeling. I think I'm Force sensitive. Wish she said that to her, but point being, it's there. Okay.
The less said about that whole not saying what he was saying. The less said about that, the better.
Less of the Finn dating game, more let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so Dragon, let's get to some iconic and favorite moments.
All right, Woo! So it's a big one. One of the big moments that visually said, "Okay, this is going to be awesome." I'm sitting down the Force.
Matthew Buck is just waiting in the wings to yell his catchphrase, Dragon.
Blood smear on the helmet.
Symbolism.
So this is just a visually perfect moment where the trooper, becomes basically he's a fellow trooper is shot down. He goes to his aid, and basically just the trooper, because the way trooper costumes are designed, I have kind of a hand on the bottom of the glove. So basically, he smears his blood on his helmet, and it's had this moment where basically Finn kind of like a panic attack in battle, where he realizes, oh God, it's almost like not a PTSD. I mean, it's kind of you're in the trauma, so maybe not post. But the point being, he's in the middle, he's in the thick of it. He's just kind of
a panic attack is a good way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is a panic attack.
That's an accurate description. Yeah.
The point being, he's kind of realizing, oh God, what am I doing here? And again, this is where the Stormtrooper, this icon of Star Wars, always okay, these guys can't shoot worth their salt. But again, icons of Star Wars.
And it's oh man, I really can't shoot worth my salt, and it's terrifying in this scenario.
But this is when he becomes a relatable character. If I had an analogy for Finn, a simple analogy for Finn, it would be: imagine Gary the Stormtrooper from Robot Chicken, but played seriously. That's Finn.
Oh yeah, sure.
Take a Gary the Stormtrooper, give him actual pathos, and give him actual not that Gary Stormtrooper didn't have a little bit of pathos. He had a daughter and everything. It was quite lovely. But the fact is, Gary Stormtrooper just put in entirely a serious situation, the kind of questioning his actions, oh God, just seeing the humanity within a Stormtrooper, and basically a soldier with second thoughts and a refusal to kill innocent people, which is just all that conveyed in just that little moment of the blood, and just seeing a Stormtrooper oh God, it's awesome.
All right, so with The Force Awakens, one of the really big things that the movie did right was the back and forth Star Wars-y dialogue. And I think that one of the best pieces of dialogue in the whole sequel trilogy is Finn getting his name.
Yes. Oh, a bromance for the ages. Finn meeting Poe Dameron. Seriously, just these two. The two have a need in the moment to escape, and they strike up just such a camaraderie and a buddy dynamic with that naming bit. It's just so what's your name? FN? FN 2187. This is FN 21. Okay, I'm not going
That's
to
a
say those.
terrible name. I'm going to call you Finn. Is that okay?
And yeah, I like
Finn.
that.
I
Yes.
like that.
It's so adorable and it's so awesome, man. It's like that's what I'm saying. It's so nice and pleasant their dynamic right from the start. And so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
instantly
yeah.
already am I fascinated by this Stormtrooper turned our lead character. Then he
Yeah,
strikes up a
sure.
friendship with Oscar Isaacs, and it's nice. And then it gets better and better. It just kind of builds there. And then he meets Rey. So I mean, he's given a new. But importantly, what Poe gives him a new name, which also is a new lease on life, even a jacket to kind of start his arc, which is nice.
Uh-huh.
So that brings us to Rey. So of course Rey. So again, Finn. He's got this new youthful, again very youthful, very again. He's kind of starting from point zero here. He's kind of starting from okay. I have an identity now. I'm making friends. My other friend kind of quote unquote died. He's going to come back later, which is fine, but I don't know that yet. He's dead. Gave me his jacket. Nice
that,
guy.
by the way, I think was one of the big mistakes of Force Awakens was the weird, like, oh, Poe Dameron was supposed to die, and then we kind of just had to edit around that.
I don't mind that we wrote him out of the story. I just wish we had like a better way of like he just kind of disappears. Like that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's an odd bit of editing in that movie. Anyway,
I think the idea is like he's sucked in. Now we've seen Rise of Skywalker. I think the idea is he's like sucked in the sand somewhere. I think that's the idea.
God.
Anyway, point being though, so again, Finn emphasis on the youthful here. He's got this lease in life, outside that all-consuming service to an ungrateful cause. Now he's like a schoolboy making friends. That's the adorable thing about Finn that I always love. He's just when he meets Rey, it's like
Rey is essentially the Helga Pataki.
In a way, yeah, in a way. That thing, I just love him making friends. Basically, like so now that Poe's gone, it's like he makes instant friends with Rey, and I love the most adorable thing in all of the whole trilogy for me is I love the hand holding gag so much. The hand holding gag is so precious to me, where it says, "You let go of my hand. I can run without you holding my hand." It's just so that's the friendship is birthed right there, you know. It's just,
for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Again, it's like it's less. It's not even a romantic thing. It's just like he's a kid who's made his friend doesn't want to lose his friend like he lost the other one, which is adorable. You know, he's just. But that's the thing. Right. But in all seriousness, like Finn is such a loyal character, and the main thing he's most loyal to in the entire trilogy is Rey. He's so darn loyal to Rey. One of his catchphrases is just calling out Rey's name. He's such a loyal guy. Rey. I mean, just that's the thing is Finn just has a likability, just kind of a personage to him. You gotta love the guy, you know.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so facing Kylo Ren.
Okay, I love this moment so much. So Kylo Ren. So of course we got a taste of this with Traitor, but of course you go back to that big moment where he puts down the gun. You know, we have Phasma, we have Kylo Ren there, kind of witnessing a little weakness amongst the ranks, and yeah, I love it. It was always a great. But we were kind of terrified by Kylo Ren, the man who can stop a laser blast at like in mid blast.
Oh, you know, it's just, by the way, such a badass way to introduce a villain. I don't know why I was ever like not sold on Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I don't know what was wrong with you, but that's the thing.
I don't know either. Just for the record, folks, when we first did our Force Awakens review, I was like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling Kylo Ren. And Jacob and Dragon just like jumped down my throat about it. And honestly, they were right, because Kylo Ren is like by far the best part of the sequel trilogy, like easily, like hands down.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. I love there was that moment. Like even it was so funny too. It's even tied into the laser blast thing. Is when he basically he lets it go to kind of shake the scare Finn a little bit, because he stares him down. That was the bit where he stares him down and says, "I saw your weakness," and then he just walks up and he just lets the blast go, boom, bam. But I love that little. They had that little exchange. He remembers him. He knows his Stormtrooper number even, which is terrifying. Just looking, he knew the number, which again I'm sure someone told him, because he probably just told him on the bridge. It doesn't matter. The point being, he saw him there. He remembered that guy. It's an exchange between these two characters wearing masks, which is also kind of cool. Anyway, so the point being, he and Kylo Ren are also kind of linked intrinsically in the story, if you really think about it. He and Kylo Ren, they're linked by their choices in Force Awakens. Of course, the whole movie hinges on Kylo Ren making a big decision with his father. And Finn is, of course, kind of his decision, like, are you going to run away, or are you going to kind of like stick by your friends? Again, it's kind of the choice, more so like the big choice made putting the gun down. So they had these big defining choices these characters are linked with, and they're kind of staring each other down with, and they're both present and looking at the other party when they make these big choices. So they are kind of intrinsically linked, which is kind of fascinating. And
Yeah.
you had the ultimate representation of the First Order. Call him traitor. I love it. It's Adam Driver. He's pissed off. He just killed his father. He's been shot by Chewbacca, who's like his furry uncle. And now he's doing the thing where he's beating the wound to kind of keep the blood flow and keep the adrenaline up. The point being, he's beyond mad. He sees this guy, and even without the armor, he recognizes like traitor. And I love this because this is like after he's thrown Rey, and again, this is before we know Rey's like the big deal that she is. I mean, we kind of had a feeling about it. It's like, oh god, Rey's been taken out of the equation. Now it falls on Finn's shoulders, and I will. This moment is so awesomely chilling to me, where it's like Finn has been called traitor, and Rey's been hurt. He loves Rey. Man. He loves Rey in the sense like Rey's my buddy, and you hurt Rey. I'm all about being loyal to my friend here. And you just threw her against the tree using the Force. You jerk. And Finn's had enough. He looks up after he says traitor. He's like, I'm not having it anymore. It's just like, just in that he calls him traitor. And Finn has had enough of being. He casts all of his fear aside in that moment to protect Rey. He knows he's outmatched. He knows the good chance he's gonna die right now, and he almost does. But it's such a great moment, don't you think? He looks up there and he lights the lightsaber and he goes at it with Kylo Ren. He even gets a shot in there, man. It's really brave. And that's where Finn just
it's kind of like fulfilling the everyman wish of holding a lightsaber and participating in one of those fights,
and going up against the big bad guy,
Right.
It's a big moment for him.
All right, yeah, good stuff. Ooh, okay, let's see. So finally, we have the Phasma rematch.
Yes.
And like you said, Dragon, my favorite moment of this is just kind of the come on! It's such a Street Fighter move, honestly.
I'm saying, when he goes up against these First Order
guys. It's like a video game taunt.
That's the thing. I love how personal the stakes and the connections are during he's going up against these representations of the First Order. Kylo Ren's the whole traitor thing, and with Phasma, it's all come on. Where it's just like this, like the one who's reconditioned and erased his past. This big score to sell from Force Awakens. You threw me in the trash compactor, Mister Sanitation. You got your. It's like this, and we even give him like a Back to the Future 2 moment where he defeats, essentially, kind of gets the upper hand with Captain Phasma with the little Back to the Future 2. Like, hey, you thought you threw him off the thing and came back. There's the deleted scene where the fight goes on a little bit longer, which was better, just to throw it out there. But the big moment that Finn does have, though, he essentially, in this moment where he goes up against Phasma, he has his big declarative, he joins the cause when he fights Phasma. Because he has the line where he says, like, you're scum, you've always been scum, and he says, yeah, rebel scum. Like, yeah! Yay, Finn, he's joined the cause, man.
A little bit of a fan service moment, but it's cool.
It's cool!
All right. And then we get to Rise of the Resistance, Dragon. I just want to break down Rise of the Resistance here and all of Finn's accomplishments in Rise of the Resistance, because it's quite a lot, Dragon. It's quite a lot, all right? Like I think it's almost undersold how much Finn is pivotal to Rise of the Resistance. So if you think about it, Finn is on the ship the whole time. He's on the Star Destroyer. He has infiltrated the Star Destroyer. And he has hacked all of the R4 units, right? Or the R5s. He's hacked all of the R5s. And he's just kind of like in with the thick of the action, helping you escape. I don't know, Dragon. What do you think? There's just something really cool about just like, this is it. Like, maybe after the botch thing in The Last Jedi, Finn has really kind of found his stride, and within the confines of Rise of the Resistance, within that story, within that standalone arc, I really do get the sense that they have used Finn as an infiltrator of the First Order, and that is kind of like one of his big roles and one of his big assets to the First Order. And I honestly think that Rise of the Resistance really illustrates that quite well and in a really cool way. What do you think?
I agree with that, absolutely. Again, he's very... We're playing to his strengths. Again, him having kind of that fulfilled arc of, okay, so Finn, what he's good at, what we've seen him do a couple times, man knows the inside operations of the place, which comes in handy a great deal, and of course leads to an awesome moment like, it's like, no, go down. Not up, down, go down.
Yeah, that awesome moment actually is specifically where you're in the ATST room and you're going into the elevator and you go up and you face the ATATs head on. The laser cannons are gonna fire on you, and Finn's like, "What are you doing? Up is bad. Up is real bad."
Yeah, that's classic. It's classic Finn right there. Again, just like again, the everyman is a little bit in over his head, but again, now the guy like knows what he's doing, but now you're the everyman in over his head. Like, no, the other way.
Right, exactly. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about Rise of the Resistance is it's essentially Finn taking a bunch of rookies through a first order infiltration mission where he's like, I've been around the block a couple times with this.
Yeah.
Like, I really do think that Rise of the Resistance is kind of like the missing piece of Finn's story arc. I really do.
Yeah.
I wish we would have seen more of this kind of like more confident Finn in the actual films.
Yeah.
Right, good stuff there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the impact that Finn has had. We kind of talked about kind of the legacy component. Now we want to talk about like kind of like the impact on kind of the culture, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to talk about impact without kind of talking about the fandom menace in this respect, Dragon, because
Oh
I feel
God,
like
I never thought of it being. That's awesome. That's a great the fandom menace. I love that.
that's the official title for it, Dragon. Yeah,
I know. I
that's what
didn't know it
people
had
are
an
calling
official
it these
title. It's
days.
great. The fandom menace. I'm
But,
sorry, folks. I'm side. That's awesome. Keep going.
I'm
Ignore
glad
me.
you're
Keep
so
going.
impressed.
Keep going.
But yeah, I think what people are going to take out of Finn, outside of just like, oh, he should have been killed off after Last Jedi and yada yada. Dragon, is that Finn is just like a very likable guy. He's like the everyman of the Star Wars universe. He's a really cool premise. I really do think that the bromance between him and Poe, like, please give me a Disney Plus show about that. I know Boyega says he doesn't want to do Disney Plus, but you know what, Boyega, just do it because Oscar Isaac and you have a great chemistry, and I just want to see a whole series of that. I don't know, man. Like, it is tough because I don't think that the writing on Finn's character arc was perfect. And as you know, the fandom menace has, to say the least, called that out. So as far as impact is concerned, I think the impact kind of goes mostly towards the goodwill we have for Finn when it comes to The Force Awakens and to Rise of the Resistance. So in that respect, Dragon, what do you got?
Well, I'll tell you, I feel, with Star Wars coming back for the next generation, it was something special, to spice things up with, your characters like your Finns and your Rays, who are, again, as our leads, who have kind of now developed kind of fans and followings of their own. I feel, representation is a lot to a kid. It really is, because, again,
Absolutely.
representation is a lot, and to kind of see yourself represented in a lead position in a Star Wars movie, I'm sure is something big. So Tiki and I can never personally relate to, but it's something I'm sure.
Yeah, that is one of the things we probably
Yeah.
should have started with here on Black History Heroes is the fact that, like, Dragon, I believe we looked it up, and statistically, we still are the two whitest men on the internet.
I mean, I don't know about you. I am the whitest, the whitest white man. I'm David.
Well, you know what? I'm Italian, so I've kind of got that sort of like olive tone to me. So yeah, I'm sure you probably are a little bit whiter than I
mean,
am.
Look, I'm David High Pierce in a ski resort, man. Anyway.
Oh,
I'm David High Pierce in a snowdrift. I'm that white anyway.
Okay, so point being, yes. We do these podcasts kind of from a distance. We're admiring these characters, we're admiring these people, but we're not living in their shoes, right? We can only do so much. But yeah, in that respect, though, Dragon, I do think that Finn has become a great role model for young kids, and I'm going to go ahead and show a picture that you sent me because I do think it kind of reflects that, and then I'll kind of switch back to the root image to make sure the root image sticks.
Yeah, I was going to give some context to this too.
Go ahead.
So that's the thing. So of course, having Finn as you're in the Star Wars isn't. I don't think that's half bad. Kind of again being like representation, kind of looking at it through that layer of like you could see yourself as like, oh no. If you're a black child who's like, see, oh my God, I could I could be in Star Wars. I could lead. I could be a lead in Star Wars. Something you never really see if you just went to the movies. Like this Luke Skywalker is a great guy. I wish I could kind of see a little bit of myself in that role. I can still like the
Uh-huh.
character. I say I wish. It's something neat. I mean, I remember the great Dwayne McDuffie. Basically, the image we had before us here. Two things. Of course, the image before us. Two things. So one, as I mentioned with the whole hand-holding thing, I just think it's the most precious thing with Finn's character. He's such a likable character and such a loyal character, and of course, one of those adorable things.
Yeah, totally.
There's a story that goes along with this photo. I think it's this photo. I remember there was a thing where John Boyega had gone to a few children's hospitals, and he went to one where he had this little girl who was dressed up like Rey, and essentially the idea is like, where's Rey? Where's Rey? And it's like, let's go find her. And of course, taking her hand, much like Finn would take Rey's hand, which is so darn precious.
Oh God.
Now onto the boy. Of course, the boy kind of trying to replicate Finn here in the Stormtrooper outfit, and of course, there's an everyman quality to a Stormtrooper, of course. But even taking that out of the equation, Dwayne McDuffie always said he wanted to get to a place where people could dress up as their favorite characters, race not being a factor in there. I think a little bit of that kind of translates to what we're seeing now, where again
I like that. Yeah.
And one of the most beautiful things.
I really like how a white kid can see someone like John Boyega and be like, that guy's cool. I want to be like that guy. You know what I mean? That is cool. That is an awesome bit of representation. Like, it's not just the African American kids that are growing up with a role model. It is the white kids who are growing more of an appreciation for diversity with a character like Finn. So that's definitely a positive thing.
Absolutely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you want to look at the thing as a whole. It's like, yes, had Rey's story not have had everyone on the edge of their seats, I think in retrospect, Finn may have shined more. Absolutely.
Really, it was Kylo Ren's story that had everyone on the edge of their seats.
But, I mean, Rey and Kylo, I'm melding those two together for my analogy here. But fine, the Rey / Kylo Ren story, if they didn't have everyone on the edge of their seats, Finn may have shined more, being my point. But that's the thing. Finn, he just represents kind of we should switch back to the main.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the thing. So, Finn, he represented kind of the youthful zeal of kind of Star Wars and kids getting into the adventure, which again is kind of that's Finn's whole arc as a character. He's just kind of the guy. He's the first guy we see, and he's just kind of thrown into the thick of it, and he's just kind of has this arc. He kind of takes him all over the place, kind of like a Luke Skywalker, kind of wanting in the fight again, a little reverse Luke Skywalker, as I said earlier. That's the thing. It's Finn is just kind of the excitement of again, it's like becoming part of a bigger world, which again is like what he and Rey kind of together have done. And again, it's something really, really neat that Boyega really kind of brought to life with this character. And again, this character is just I love to check in with this guy. I'd love to check in with him in other stories. Again, I can't promise I'd really seek out a lot of the expanded universe stuff because kind of the taste that Rise of Skywalker kind of left in my mouth. I got to be honest. But if I saw anything like about the early years of Finn, just kind of that original story, man, I'd absolutely be interested in it. That's
what I'm saying. I'm honestly surprised that there's no expanded universe stuff that touches on that.
I mean, there may be. I don't think there's a lot, if there is any. But I mean, again, it's like exactly. I echo exactly what you said because you summed it up perfectly. Because again, it's like Finn and Poe as a dynamic is something I am head over heels with. Seeing because Finn just had that likability. You compare him with any character and get kind of like. Get some fun out of it. Get kind of like get kind of that everyman just kind of in a situation, kind of experiencing Star Wars for the first time, and that's. I think that's why Finn was such a great character. He's us. Finn is us, enjoying Star Wars for the next generation. People experiencing Star Wars for the first time, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about his character. And I think it's why he's connected, not just being an ingenious premise, but an ingenious premise that kind of took on a life of his own, just kind of like, kind of going on an adventure through the galaxy, which is what Star Wars is all about when you boil it down. It's just about going on an adventure in space.
Well said. All right, Dragon, would you like to tease the next person we're going to be talking about here?
Let me put it this way, folks. We're going back in time. No, we're going back in time for in regards to we're going backwards, but we're going way backwards, folks. We're going prequel. Next installment, going full on prequel. I think you all know what character we're talking about. No, it's not. It's not the eye patch guy from. It's not the eye patch guy from the Phantom Menace. Not that guy. Yep.
Oh God.
Give you a hint. It's not the eye patch guy.
All right. Well, that's all for now. We met stars in a galaxy far, far away who showed us worlds not simply black or white, but brimming with color as well as character.
On the next installment of Black History Heroes.
No, I said down, not up. Up is bad. Up is real bad.
Right.